Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
So far we have discussed about some major theories, like capitalism, socialism, communism. Okay. Now we will elaborate this theoretical position, and we will see how from this theoretical position we can understand the theoretical basis of social policy. So now we will be discussing theoretical basis of social policy. This theoretical basis of social policy is based on what we have discussed so far. Actually they follow from the major theories of socialism, capitalism and communism. Okay. Now let us look at the theoretical basis of social policy. Okay. Now here we will obviously there are so many theoretical positions. Now here we will look at some major theoretical position, and we will see how those theoretical position defines the scope of social policy. We will try to see how from these theories the scope of social policy follows. Okay. The first obviously which follows from capitalism. Under capitalism there are two different theoretical positions we will be discussing here, which comes under capitalism. One is anti-collectivism. Anti-collectivism is that means anti-state provided welfare. If you recollect what we have discussed under capitalism, which says that state should not play any role or stay in economic affairs. Okay, or state should have very minimum role in economic affairs. That means state should not provide any type of welfare services. Okay. So in that the first one is anti-collectivism. Anti-collectivism says that absolutely capitalism is the right type of theory. Under capitalism everybody prospers. So under capitalism is right. Capitalism promotes prosperity. So capitalism. So under capitalism, state should not have any role in providing social welfare, because if state promotes social welfare, that means state is intervening, which will harm the development of capitalism. Hence, it says, the anti-collectivist says that there will be very minimum state. State should not play any role in providing social welfare, or state will have very minimum role in social welfare, because capitalism is the superior theory which helps the society to bring prosperity. If capitalism flourishes, there will be prosperity in the society. Hence, state should not play any role which will curb, capitalism. So state will have very minimum role. Okay, but then there is another variation under capitalism. One viewpoint which is anti-collectivism, which says state will have very minimum role. Okay, but there is another variation which is non-socialist welfare collectivism. Now in this variation under capitalism there are some which who feels that state can play some welfare role. State can play some welfare role, okay, but non-socialist, not like socialism. State can play some role, because they say that there may be some problem in capitalism. Even in capitalism, there may be some problem. So state should play some role to correct those problems. Okay, so they say that state will have some role. So under capitalism, we are discussing about two type of theoretical positions. One position says that capitalism is supreme, there is nothing wrong in capitalism, so capitalism should flourish, and if to allow capitalism to flourish, state should not intervene at all. And so if state will have very minimum role. If state plays any role, that will be promotional of promoting free competition. That is the only role state should play. So you can easily imagine, if state doesn't have any role to play, and if it is says that capitalism promotes welfare of the society, capitalism is in the interest of the society, good for the society, so then there is no scope of, so social policy will have very minimum role to play in that type of anti-collectivism. But there is another variation within that, is that which says no, capitalism is overall is good, but in capitalist society also there may be some problems. Capitalism may not always work perfectly. So in those cases only state should play some role, and state should try to, so there is some scope of welfare policies, or there is some scope of social policy there. Okay. Next come socialism. We have discussed about socialism. Under socialism, we will be discussing about two theoretical positions. One is Fabian socialism. Now, what Fabian socialism says? Fabian socialism says that capitalism is wrong. Capitalism is wrong. Actually, capitalism brings inequality, which is not just. So state should try to provide justice. How state should provide justice? State should try to provide equality in the society so state should intervene and try to promote equality and justice in the society, and by promoting socialism. Okay. So state has a major role. How state will play that role? It says that what state will do, state will pass legislation, and through those legislations state will take over private property. State will take over private property, and when state owns the private property, so state will take over private property from the rich individuals, okay, rich business persons, and that earning should benefit the citizen of the country. Okay. So Fabian socialism says that gradually, through democratic process, through passing legislation, state would take over the private property, and that private property should benefit this community. Okay. Like say in our country, there is bank nationalization, there is nationalization of coal mines, etc. Many properties state overtook, and that state did through legislation. So state will, through legislation, state will transform a grossly unequal society to a just society. So state has a major role, and that will be in the interest of the community. So state has a major role here under Fabian socialism. But there is another variation under socialism, which is radical social administration. Now, what is the difference between radical social administration and Fabian socialism? Radical social administration says that actually, it is not possible to transform the state through legislation. those who subscribe to this position of radical social administration, they assume along with the Marxists, they agree that those who own property, they have all the power. Okay. So, if we have a state where the capitalist class, they own property to start with, then it will not be possible for that state to pass a legislation and take over the property. So, what they argue, that state will, instead of going through this type of gradualism, state should by force take over private property and transfer that private property to the state, so that the earning from that private property belongs to the community and not to some few selected individual owners. Okay. So, only difference, the main difference between Fabian socialism and radical social administration is that whereas Fabian socialists, they believe in gradual transformation of society through legislation, radical social administration, they do not believe in that. They say that through action, through force, state should take over private property and transform that to the community, so that the fruits of those private property goes to the citizen of the country. Okay. And then we have the communism, which is which says that state ultimately, what they say, that actually the type of welfare policy that we will have in a country, that depends on the promotion, that depends on the progress of class struggle. Okay. And so the type of social policy that we have in a country, if a country is very advanced in terms of class struggle, in those countries people will have better social welfare services, or social policy will have better scope. And they say ultimately what would happen, that state should overthrow the capitalist class, and state should own every property, and there should be a totalitarian state. That means state will have entire responsibility to provide welfare services to the citizen or to the community, members of the community. So, you see there is a continuum, actually we have under anti-collectivism, what we have, very minimum scope of state, then under non-socialist welfare collectivism, this gives slightly more scope for social policy, here. And then Fabian socialism and radical socialism, radical social administration, they give further more scope for to the state, because they say that state should transform the society by acquiring private property from capitalist class. And then ultimately we come to communist states, which says that entire responsibility of providing social welfare services will be the responsibility of the state. So, we have this type of continuum like scope of social policy under these major political theories. Okay. Now, so we have discussed about so now what we will do, we will discuss about these 5 theoretical positions in a little detail. Okay. Now, and we will see how scope of social policy varies under these theoretical positions. Okay. The first is anti-collectivism, about which we have just mentioned. Now, anti-collectivism, it says that freedom of individual or individualism. Anti-collectivism talks about freedom of individual or individualism. Okay. Now, what it says that individuals should have the freedom to act in the market economy, or the freedom to act in the market economy enables a person to stand on one's own feet, and then state welfare becomes unnecessary for the majority. What it says that if we see, firstly it talks about individualism, okay, and it says that every individual should be given the right or given the opportunity to operate in the market economy. Let every individual operate in the market economy. What will happen then? It says that in that case, what happened, that a person will be able to stand on one's own feet, okay, and then state welfare will not be needed. It will be unnecessary for majority of the citizen. Welfare activity will not be required. That means if we allow the individuals or if we to operate in the market economy, then everybody would be able to, or majority will be able to stand on their own feet. That means they will be able to meet all types of needs. Whether they have a need for food, need for education, or all other type of needs, they will be able to meet, and hence state need not play any such role, okay. Then it says individual freedom is limited through the imposed burden of taxation necessary to fund state welfare by planning and rent control, etc. Okay. Now, further what it argues, it says not only every individual will be, if individuals are given freedom, they not only they will be able to stand on their own feet. Further it says that if state wants to provide provide some welfare services to the citizens, what would happen, how state will meet those expenses. Like say for instance, earlier we have discussed about midday meal program, okay. Now when state was trying to provide midday meal to the children in the school to the poorer families. Now what state will have to do, where from state will get this money, or not only midday meal program, what type of, any type of welfare activity that state will undertake, those welfare activity would require a fund. Now where from this fund will come? This fund will come from taxation. That means state will have to impose a tax to individuals, okay. So a part of their income an individual will have to pay to the state, and with that actually state will be able to provide state welfare. So that means that will be the curbing of the freedom of the individual. Like for instance, in our country, those who are in the higher income bracket, for them, say for instance, there is a 30%, they may be in the 30% tax bracket. That means if they earn 10 rupees, they can retain only 7 rupees. 3 rupees they will have to pay to the state as a tax. Now what will happen, why state requires that type of money? State requires that type of money for providing welfare services. So it says that providing welfare services curbs the interest of the individual, freedom of the individual, because state will have to whatever earning individual will have, part of the earning will have to give to the state through taxation, and that is curbing individual's right, okay. It also says that state welfare services are wasteful and inefficient since they do not face any competition and are not controlled by any cost effective principles, okay. It says that like when state provides welfare services, it is wasteful. At one point of time, how it is wasteful, one example I can cite here. At one point of time, the then Prime Minister Rajiv Gandhi has once said that if 1 rupee is spent for welfare, ultimately only 14 paisa will reach to the beneficiary. That means if state, it is so much wasteful that if state spend 1 rupee for social welfare, ultimately the beneficiary gets benefit of only of the 14 paisa, which is so that means so much wastage happens, so that is why welfare service is very wasteful, and it is also very inefficient, because what happens, when state provides welfare services, state state do not face any competition, so there is no effort is taken for cost cutting or providing services efficiently, etc., etc. So that is how not only it is wasteful, it is also inefficient. Very state welfare services is very inefficient, and you will always find complain about various types of social welfare services. So much fund is being allocated by the government for various welfare schemes, but ultimately the citizens of the country get very little benefit, because part of it is wasted, or there may be corruption, or part of it is inefficiently used, because there is no competition. It is state money, government's money, so it is spent very inefficient way, and it does not follow any cost effective principles. So that is why state welfare is not at all efficient. Okay, that is why state should not play an important role in providing welfare services. And it also says state welfare bureaucracies have created self-interested groups of professionals who demand that the growth of the welfare state be maintained. What happens, like say when you have a welfare services, we create a welfare administration. We have a social welfare administration, social welfare officer, like say for midday meal program or some other program, or some midday meal, there is a child welfare officer, etc., etc., etc. So whenever we have a welfare service, we have a department and we have a welfare administration. Okay. Now what happens, this welfare administration, they create a self-interested groups. They try to expand those activities, so that and they want to continue to, so that they can keep their job and they can get more people in those employment, so that they have to do less work, etc., etc., and they will always argue in favor of maintaining or retaining that type of welfare services or extension of those type of welfare services, because that serves their own interest. So we have created a welfare administration, and this welfare administration wants to perpetuate their interest, so that is what happens in this thing. When we have when welfare services is provided by the state. Okay. Now according to anti-collectivist, what is the way out of this? It says that first one way to come out of this type of problem is to provide privately based welfare. It says that actually instead of state providing welfare services, what we should have, that private party should provide welfare services. For instance, some sort of insurance company, supposing there is a private insurance company. So here the insurance company will provide welfare services, and they will try to make some profit. So it should be privately based welfare. It is not state owned welfare services, it should be privately owned welfare services. Or it says contracting out to the private sector or parts of welfare services. Okay. Now one is either we should privatize welfare services. That means whatever welfare services we have should be run by private party. Like say for instance, say I am again taking the example of midday meal. Now it says that instead of government providing midday meal, a private company should provide the midday meal service and should charge for it or something like that, okay, or contracting out to private sector or parts of welfare services, or so welfare services should be given to private party, instead of state providing welfare services, state should uh, contract give contract some private party to provide part of the welfare services. In fact, this is done partly in our country. I can give one example. Of course, what we have, what we do sometimes, particularly after we adopted, reform, economic reform, we are an attempt is being made to minimize state's role in welfare services. Now, there what we are trying to do sometime, we are trying to contract out some part of the welfare services to private party. Like for example, there is an NGO called Child in Need Institute. So what the government department has done that, for say we have a program called Integrated Child Development Scheme. So government runs this integrated child development scheme. Now it involves various types of activity. Now one activity is to recruit persons to provide training to those who will work in integrated child development scheme. Now earlier government is to provide this training to the personnel who will work in ICDS project or integrated child development scheme. Now what government has done now, instead of government providing this training program, it has leased out or it has asked this particular NGO called Child in Need Institute or CINI to provide training for this ICDS personnel, ICDS workers. So what government has done? Government has entered into a contract with this particular NGO. So government gives a lump sum amount to that particular NGO, and that NGO takes care of the providing training to the ICDS personnel. So it is an example of contracting out. Instead of giving to a private party, it has government is giving this to NGOs. Now that is being already practiced since we entered into the era of liberal economy. Another way out of this is application of market principles. The application of market principles within state welfare profession. It says that actually welfare services should be provided by following market principles. Like welfare services will be provided now and it may be priced. Say for example, some sort of welfare services, that superior type of welfare services, if someone wants, they will have to pay. Like, okay, there should not be any completely, say for instance, there should not be free treatment provided to the patients in hospitals. The hospitals may start charging a fee for providing the treatment to the patients, or if someone wants to opt for a better type of treatment, they'll have to pay a little more, etc., etc. So some sort of applying some sort of market principles to provide welfare services. That means welfare services will not be given completely free of cost. It will be provided based on some sort of market principles. So that is how anti-collectivists they argue that firstly welfare services is not needed, because if individuals are provided freedom, they can stand on their own feet and they will not require any type of welfare service. Secondly, if government wants to provide welfare services, the freedom is limited, because government will have to tax citizens to pay for this welfare services. So, that is curbing the rights of the citizens, okay. Or and it also says that welfare services are wasteful, and it creates a self-interest groups, and it says that remedy says that it should be welfare services should be privatized, and they have suggested several methods, either it should be privately based welfare services, or it should be government should contract out welfare services, or government should apply market principles for providing welfare services. That is what is the stand of anti-collectivist. Okay. Now, we will go to the another next standpoint, which is non-socialist welfare collectivism. Okay. Now, what they say non-socialist welfare collectivism, like earlier school, that is anti-collectivist, their argument was that actually capitalism does not have any problem. Capitalism is good, hence we do not need welfare services. But non-socialist welfare collectivist, what they say that there are problems in capitalism. Capitalism is in general good, but there may be some problem in capitalist society also. In capitalist society also there may be problem of illiteracy, ignorance, unemployment, etc. This type of problems are there. Though capitalism is superior, is better system, but it is not that capitalism is without any problem. In a capitalist society also we may have some problem. Now, but they say that these problems can be removed by welfare services, welfare. So, when there is a problem, or whenever there is a problem of capitalism, capitalism faces some problem, state can provide welfare services. Okay, like supposing there may be recession in the capitalist economy, and because of this recession, what may happen that some people may become unemployed. Okay, people may lose job. Now, here it is not that state should not do anything in that type of situation. State. So, this is the problem of capitalist economy. Now, so to tackle that problem, state should play a role, and state should provide some sort of welfare services to remove those type of problem. Okay. Now, here state is providing these welfare services. Why? To maintain capitalism more effectively. In other words, here state is providing these welfare services. Why state is to make capitalism more perfect? By removing capitalism is, they said capitalism is the best system. Okay, there is no doubt about it. But capitalist society may face some problem, and what is the scope of social policy? Social policy will try to remove those problems. By removing this problem, aim of removing this problem is to make capitalist society more exact, okay, or to maintain capitalism. So, here the scope of social policy is to maintain capitalism by providing welfare services. That is what is the argument of non-socialist welfare collectivism. And how, what should be the nature of these welfare services? They talk about some sort of mixed economy of welfare, okay, and decentralization and participation. What they say, like earlier school anti-collectivist, what they say that welfare services should be privatized. Private parties should provide welfare services, or welfare services should follow the market principle, etc., etc. But non-socialist welfare collectivist, what they say that welfare services provided through a mixed economy. That means private party can provide welfare services, as well as government should also provide welfare services. That it says that part of the welfare services can be provided by government, and part of the welfare services can be privatized. That is what is the stand of non-socialist welfare collectivism, and it says it should follow a principle of decentralization and people's participation. It will try to promote some sort of decentralization and people's participation in providing welfare services. Okay. Next we come to Fabian socialism. Okay, what Fabian socialists say. Okay. Now Fabian socialists say that their argument is against capitalism. They say that capitalism is unethical, unjust and undemocratic, but it can be transformed. Central to this transformation is welfare state. Fabian socialists say their argument is capital society is there, but capital society is unjust. Why it is unjust? That in capital society we have inequality and it is undemocratic, it is unethical. Okay. So what has to be done? That as this society, capitalist society is unjust, capitalist society is characterized by inequality. What is the role of state? State should try to promote justice. How state will promote justice? State will try to promote justice by promoting equality. Equality is justice. Now, how state will provide equality? State will promote justice by promoting equality. Capitalism can be transformed through state action or through legislation. It says that state will pass legislation through which state will try to promote equality and make unjust capitalist society try to make unjust into a just society. Like for instance, if you see in our country, there is something called land reform. Okay. Now, what is land reform? What is one of the important part of the land reform? The important part of the Land Reform Act is that state will, there is something called land ceiling. Those who have land beyond a particular amount, beyond a particular the declared ceiling, that land will be collected or acquired by the state, and that land will be given to those who are landless. That means, what it is trying to do, that capitalism has created an unjust society. Some people became very rich. There are some big landlords owning a vast amount of land, and on the other hand there are many landless poor. Okay. This is the result of a capitalist system according to Fabian socialist. Now, argument of Fabian socialist is that state can play a role, or state should play a role to promote justice. How state will promote justice? That state will collect or acquire land which is beyond the land ceiling, and that land they should distribute to the landless poor, and that is how state will promote justice. So, Fabian socialists believe that state can transform unjust capitalist society through legislation. It says that Fabian socialist capitalism is not an ugly phase. It says that capitalism can be tamed and transformed. It says that let capitalism flourish, but what happened, whenever capitalism results into a unjust society by promoting inequality, Fabian socialist says that it can be transformed. State can take policy to transform that unjust society through legislation. Now, here actually Fabian socialists argue strongly for the state as the source of welfare provision, as against the private sector, which they see as catering to the rich rather than the poor. like as you have seen that anti-collectivist or they argued that private party should provide welfare services, etc., etc. But Fabian socialists, they strongly argue that welfare provision or should be belongs to the state. State is the source of welfare provision. Now, whatever welfare services, that has to be provided by the state, not by the private party. They argue that actually if we privatize if we allow private sector to provide welfare society to welfare activity, the private party will serve the interest of the rich and not of the poor. So, they said state should play the main role in providing welfare services and not the private sector, because private sector works in the interest of the rich and not in the interest of the poor. That is why. So Fabian socialism gives prime role to the state in welfare activity. Okay. Radical social administration. Now we come to the radical social administration. What they say. Okay. Now they agree with Fabian socialists to some extent, and they also disagree in some areas. Okay. They also say that state should play a role in transforming the society. Okay. State should play a role, but they do not believe in gradualism. As Fabian socialists say, argue that gradually by passing legislation, society can be changed from a capitalist society, can be changed to a socialist society, but radical social administration say that that is not possible. What they say, that those who have economic power, they control everything, they have all other power, so they will not allow state or to pass a legislation, or they will manipulate the legislation so that state does not state is not able to implement a policy which will transform a capitalist society to a more socialist society. So they do not believe in this type of gradualism. So they say that to start with, you have to transform the structure of the society. So long as in society there are there is capitalist class, they will have power. So first thing is the state will have to acquire the property of the capitalist class through administrative action. Through administrative action, state will acquire property of the property owning class and transform the society. It is not possible to do it gradually through legislation. So they use a they employ a structuralist analysis of social problem, but at the same time lean back to the idealism of the Fabian socialist to explain change. They agree with structuralist in the sense that they say that like the Marxists argue that what will be the nature of state, that depends on the type of economic activity that is there. That means the way property is distributed in the society, that determines the nature of the state. Now radical socialists to an extent agree to that, but actually they say but this can be transformed, through force acquiring of property, okay, by the state through administrative action. Okay. Then we come to the political economy of welfare. Now the political economy approach sees the development of welfare under capitalism as a result of conflict between the classes, the working class and the capitalist class. Now political economy of welfare, what they say that type of welfare activity that we see in a particular state, that depends on the progress of class struggle. If we find that in some society there are a lot of social welfare provisions are there, that means that their class struggle has progressed much. It is because of the class struggle state has to provide welfare services. Okay. So, they say that ultimately actually it is a result of conflict between two classes, and actually type of what is the nature of welfare services in a particular state, that depends on the nature of the result of conflict. If working class is they are more assertive, then in that society will have better welfare activity. The working class and capitalist class, they are constantly fighting, and ultimately that will result the type of, if working class become more vocal, more powerful, that state will have better type of welfare activity. And ultimately what they say, that ultimately the working class will win over, and will have a situation where the entire welfare activity will be provided by the state. With this we conclude this session. Thank you.